Dear delegates, we are going to start the Plenary 6, Early Career Researchers Advancing Diamond Open Access. I request all the delegates to kindly take your seats, and I also request delegates who are outside the hall kindly join us inside. This session will be chaired by Brett. Brett, you can take care. Yeah, he's a senior officer, Science Europe.
Thank you for that introduction. As people are moving into the room, we can... yes. I'm just, for the speakers, for the simultaneous interpretation, let's talk at an easy pace, a little bit slower. Yes. Okay. So, as you just heard, I'm going to very slowly start the session. My name is Brecht Salen. I'm Senior Policy Officer for Open Science at Science Europe, and I'm also member of the International Oversight Committee that brought together this summit. And it's my pleasure, really, to moderate this session, the session that is going to be focusing on early career researchers and how they can advance Diamond Open Access. We're going to be hearing from their perspectives, from my speakers here gathered on the stage. We're going to be hearing from their experiences and their leadership in Diamond Open Access. And it's my pleasure because this is an important session. This is, I think, the entire organizing committee felt that this was an absolute must to have on the program, their perspectives. And the reason why is that throughout the summit, we've discussed a lot in the last couple of days about how we strengthen Diamond Open Access to bring researchers on board, to bring research communities on board, for them to be able to publish in Diamond journals, make use of our platforms and infrastructures. But that is definitely something that we are going to discuss here as well. But there's something else as well with early career researchers, I feel, is because what is important there is that they are destined to become the future builders and stewards and advocates for Diamond Open Access. And that is also an aspect I feel we want to touch upon here. We want to touch upon how we are facilitating you taking on that role. So it's very important to hear your perspectives of where we are today, what your experience is, and what we can take from that in terms of facilitating you in the future, taking Diamond Open Access forward. I think that is the importance of this session. Essentially, we are asking, how do we all together as a community ensure that the next generation of researchers can lead Diamond Open Access forward? Now, that is a big question to unpack. So we have agreed with the speakers that we're going to unpack this a little bit. Throughout the introductions of the speakers here and throughout the conversation, you're going to see that there's a couple of topics that keep coming back. We're going to be talking about their experience with the opportunities that they see, the opportunities and motivation they have to engage with Diamond Open Access. That is the first thing that we want to unpack a little bit. Secondly, the mirror image of that, we are also going to be talking about the barriers and challenges. What in your experience, what are the challenges you're experiencing? What are the risks you might identify for yourself in engaging with Diamond Open Access? That's important to call out as well. Thirdly, also important, we're going to be touching upon capacity building, skills development, in terms of skills training, in terms of institutional support. What is that you feel that you need to engage in Diamond Open Access? And to what extent do you feel that you're getting that support right now? That is something that's very important to touch upon as well. And then fourthly, but certainly not lastly, research assessment and career progression. This is something that has been, I think, touched upon in every session of the Global Summit, but we're going to talk about it here as well. How do we feel about current assessment, hiring, promotion practices? How do these need to evolve to make sure that you engage fully with Diamond Open Access? That is how we're going to unpack our main question for this session. I'm going to start introducing the speakers, and they're going to come up and give a first introduction one by one with the key points that they want to share with this community. Just a very brief note in terms of how we want to organize this. We're going to start with those introductions. We're going to move into a moderated panel discussion, and then there's going to be a Q&A with the audience. So if you have questions, if you hear something that you want to hear more about, or you have a question about it, please keep that in mind. We're hopefully going to come back to the audience to have that discussion as well. So, by way of introduction, that's all from me. I'm going to introduce to you the first speaker of today. It's actually an online speaker. If she can be projected on the screen, we have Alexandra Lewandowska, Vice President of Eurodoc. Alexandra, I know you can unfortunately only stay for about the first hour of the session, but it's very important that you can join us. We are very much looking forward to your perspective on this topic. So if you could please just mention something that I can confirm that we can hear you loud and clear. No, not yet. We can't hear you yet. I'm looking at IT. So Alexandra, you can hear me, I think. We can't hear you.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
I
Perfect.
can hear you.
The floor is all yours.
Perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. And unfortunately, due to the conference delay, I have approximately 15 minutes to stay at the session. I really, really regret that I cannot be with you in person, but due to some work issues and this kind of experience, I need to be online, but I'm happy to join the session. And I think I just need to let you know that you hear me, and I'm giving back the floor to introduction for the next speakers.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, so this is the time for the introduction. Okay.
I'm sorry, indeed, this is the introduction.
Researchers, widely known as Eurodoc. And Eurodoc is actually volunteer-run organization, but this is pan-European federation of national associations of doctoral candidates and junior researchers across Europe. And through our member organizations, we give a voice to early career researchers, right? At the European level, we directly engage with policymakers, with universities, research organizations, other stakeholders shaping the future, actually, of research and higher education. In Eurodoc, we work to improve research conditions, career development, research integrity, right? And actually access to knowledge, right? So open science, it is one of our priorities because early career researchers are both major contributors to scholarly publishing and among the most affected group by inequities in the current system. So we strongly support non-profit, community-driven publishing models that remove barriers for both readers and also authors, right? And that recognize publishing as a shared scholarly infrastructure. There was a lot of infrastructure from in the previous panel, rather than a commercial product, right? So in this panel, it would be good to hear and to discuss the perspective of both doctoral candidates and junior researchers, which we count as early career researchers, right? Highlighting why open access, and here especially diamond open access matters for research equity, sustainability, and also academic freedom, right? And discussing how early career researchers can actively contribute to help also govern open access, Diamond Open Access initiative worldwide to just ease our lives. Yeah, that would be it for the beginning.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alexandra. That is a great start. I'm really taking note of what you said about this is, and again, it speaks to the relevance of the session. You mentioned this is the most affected group. It's also the group that stands to gain the most with changes if they are sustainably implemented. So thank you for that start. We're going to keep moving on with our speakers. Kutubudin Mola, Senior Scientist at ICAR, National Rice Research Institute. The floor is all yours to continue the introductions.
Thanks, Brecht. I think I need to, adjust the mic every time when Brecht comes. A lot of differences in height. Okay, so good morning, everyone. So this is Kutubuddin Mullah. I'm working as a senior scientist at, in agricultural biotechnology at the Central Rice Research Institute in India. And, as a member of Indian National Young Academy of Sciences, INEAS, we have been working on making scientific knowledge freely accessible to the public for the last 5 years, at least I am involved in. So, there is another side of the coin. When you make an effort in making unrestricted availability of scholarly research, it can also have difficulties in quality control. For example, like predatory publishing. So INEAS has led an international consortium called Rescue that I mentioned also on the other day to combat predatory publishing. So, since public is the funder and consumer of both science, public fund science, public also consume the outcome of the science. The scientific findings should always be freely accessible to them. And this is the core of open science movement. All of you know that. But the commercial publishers have commodified this movement and put a high and huge burden of APCs on the authors especially. So it's now like for early career researchers, it's like, publish or perish. Everybody knows that. But now they say pay to publish. So it ultimately, it's like pay or perish. So if you pay, it's okay, you're okay. If you don't pay, you perish. So it is especially extremely difficult to early career researchers who just joined to the institute and does not have good funding to cover the APCs. They suffer the most. Or the mid-career and the senior faculties, they do not have that kind of difficulties that much as the early career researchers like me face. So, after research and analysis is done and the manuscript is almost prepared, then what we see, okay, which journal does not have an APC? But it has a good prestige also. Because we cannot also stake our reputation and, career advancement scheme where prestigious journal is always valued, like metrics, high impact factor, all these kind of things. I think in this case, Diamond Open Access model could relieve the pain and hurdles to early career researchers like me. And I always say whenever I go to this kind of audience, then I say the new researchers arrange funding for doing research. They do hard work. They train students to do research, how to do research. Okay, they train master's students, PhD students. They write and analyze and prepare manuscript. They volunteer editing and reviewing the peers' manuscript. But when they want to publish their own paper, they still have to pay a huge amount of money to those publishers, those who do not do anything. So this is kind of, a very, very unfortunate situation because, scientific community are highly, highly fragmented. We have very small domain. We'd never be united to fight against those kind of, it's a kind of malpractice, I should say, that they use all the intellectuals and time of scientists, but they make money. Scientists does not get anything, only suffer. So, so the main, motivation for this Diamond Open Access is obviously that freely accessible our work without paying hefty fees. That's the main motivation to early career researchers. But there is also a great opportunity that it has, it could be used for disseminating scientifically sound socially accountable and locally meaningful research. Locally meaningful research, which may not be meaningful to suppose some part of the world, but this is very, very locally meaningful. So Diamond Open Access come in forefront of this kind of publication model. And the main barrier, what I see, is that, recognition is one of the main barrier. So if you say an exciting research to your peers, and they will ask, okay, why you have published this paper? Immediately they will ask you. When you say a low prestige journal, they immediately undervalue your high value research. That's the real, this is the real situation. And especially the new journals and regional ones is undervalued in hiring, promotion, grant evaluation, all of these things. Although we have a moral inclination to publish in Diamond Open Access Journal, we face great dilemma, especially because we cannot make our career metrics. We cannot afford reputational risk kind of things. So, but I want to also highlight some of the structural. Oh, okay. So I have to conclude quickly. I would make my other points later. So, main structural problem is that, Diamond Open Access Journal has very low discoverability, low altmetrics. That is also you need to work on. This is an infrastructural problem. We have to make them, easily searchable to, all the all the search engine and other AI tools that we use normally. So Diamond Open Access should pop up at the top 1, 2, 3 search result. That is one point I want to conclude with this introduction. Then I will come with my lot of other points written here later. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. That was such a great connection to other parts of the Global Summit as well. Like you said, I mean, to summarize a couple of things you're saying, like the commodification of open access has a real and negative impact on Diamond Open Access, presents a real alternative, but still we need to do better there. And you refer to like discoverability, findability, we've started this summit with the workshops on day 1 on metadata. And again, there also was the same discussion. This is about something, this has a real impact on also early stage researchers. So thank you for sort of bringing us back to that. Now, moving on, it is my pleasure to also introduce our third speaker already, Pragya Chaube. You are assistant professor at the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, co-founder of the Open Sciences South Asia Network, co-chair CoData Connect, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Brett, for giving me the floor and inviting me for this panel. And, well, I don't see as many enough policymakers in the room for the ECR session. I vote still counts, right? But anyway, thank you, Brett, for that introduction. I will keep my introduction brief. Some of you already know me, and for those, some of you actually attended the ECR workshop on Monday that I had hosted. For the benefit of others, my name is Pragya Chaube, as Brett had said, and I'm an early career researcher. I'm a newly minted assistant professor at UPES University, a private university in India. I am co-chair of CoData Connect, early career network arm of CoData, which is the data arm of International Science Council. And lastly, I want to say that I'm frustrated. Of course. You can ask why. So during the sessions, a lot of people have shared a lot of data, made very interesting points. So I'm not going to go into all of that, but I'm going to share my lived reality with you. Sometime back, my colleague and I, we co-authored a paper on rare disease management in resource-constrained settings, and we took evidence from India, LMICs, and we were very proud of our work. We submitted it to a renowned international journal, and the review process began quite normally, right? Until we received reviewers' comments, which said, high-income countries have already solved this problem. So we really don't need this research. Imagine that. But thankfully, we actually had a very strong worded correspondences with the editor, and we were given different set of reviewers, and the paper was eventually accepted, and then dropped the bomb. Please pay APC $2,000. then we were like, oh, come on, we are from LMICs, we cannot pay that much. And they were like, oh yeah, you are. Let us give you a discount. And now you have to pay $1,000 on a paper about limited resources. They charged us $1,000, which was, to give you a perspective, 5 months of my rent at that time. And the sad reality is that my co-author took the contingency amount from her research fellowship and paid that money. And this is not an isolated story. It reflects how global publishing system shapes what is considered valuable knowledge and who must pay to be visible in that system. And you can imagine we could have taken it after such systemic marginalization, we could have gone somewhere else. But she had to pay because her annual review for her fellowship by an Indian agency was upcoming, for which she needed that publication. Everybody is here knows the irony that I'm talking about. Two Indians talking about Indian solution, firstly were denied, but when we finally fought our way to the entry, we actually had to play these global publishers because the Indian system demanded such. And that is where incentives begin to shape behavior. There is a well-known historical example from colonial India. It's called the Cobra effect. At some point, the cobra population was increasing, and the British authorities thought we need to control that. So what they did, they put a bounty on dead cobras. But what had happened after that was the population started to increase even more. The people began breeding cobras, and they started taking those to these authorities for the reward. And this is what a perverse incentive system does. It produces opposite of the intended outcomes. And this is what our research ecosystem is currently doing, that my previous speaker has wonderfully explained within the time slot he's given. We reward publication counts, we reward prestige, journals, impact factors, everything that we have spoken about. And what we forget that a lot of time these journals, I'm talking about the Springers and Sciences and Elseviers, they only publish what is trending, what supports them, and not what is actual research. If you all know CRISPR-Cas9, the actual first paper of CRISPR-Cas9, the breakthrough technology, was not even published in one of these. They do not favor breakthrough technology. They are not there to push the envelope of the humankind, which is what research is about. And yesterday, my colleague, Dr. Momekta, she touched it upon in her presentation, what is happening with systems, with countries like us. Even our local solutions, our local problems are outside of that system, which exactly was my story was about. In many contexts, we are no longer publishing because we have something important to say. We had a eureka moment, we discovered something. We are publishing now to signal that we are active. We are using public funding to do something, and we are not even questioning whether that something is useful to the public. So I'm repeating myself. For ECRs, this incentive system is not abstract. It determines funding, hiring, promotion, everything. And in private university like mine, this ecosystem is of a lot more importance because this prestige factor translates to citations to university rankings. University rankings determine student enrollment. Student enrollment determines institutional stability, which basically translates to fund, careers and jobs and salaries for people like me. So where does the opportunity actually lies? With Diamond Open Access in breaking this cycle. It's not just about the financial relief, it also is a space, intellectual space that it creates for us. It creates a space for locally grounded work, multilingual knowledge, community-driven scholarship to be disseminated without penalty for not fitting into dominant global narratives. To give you an example, so my university is based in the Himalayan region, which is a very ecologically sensitive and important region across the world. And we are losing our indigenous varieties. There are varieties that are going extinct. And I know a person who has created a community seed bank on his own initiative. He's not only conserving seeds, he's also preserving the traditional agricultural knowledge associated with them. This knowledge is embedded in language, local practice, and lived experience. And he has been recognized nationally. He has received Padma Shri Award, which is India's highest civilian honor. And yet, ask yourself this. Room full of agricultural scientists, how many of you have heard of him? How many do you think his knowledge is meaningfully preserved within academic ecosystem, indexed, cited, or translated, or you can use it within your own research? The answer is no. Very socially valuable knowledge, but academically invisible. And Diamond Open Access, if designed properly with multilingual metadata, inclusive governance, it creates the possibility for such voices to be heard and preserved. It represents democratization of knowledge economy. And I had really hoped that this conference would give a space to such grassroots people whose ideas and everything can be represented in Diamond Open Access, but unfortunately, they are not here. So, and for a country like India, where we have many languages, this kind of multilingual inclusivity is of utmost importance. I want to point out that we have about 1,000 different local languages and dialect, and Constitution of India does not recognize a single language, but there are 22 official languages with Hindi and English, 2 languages that are used for interstate communication. And with that, I would just quickly point out risks, that it is community governed. Community governance requires labor, peer review, and much of this invisible labor usually falls on the, disproportionately on the shoulders of ECRs, one who are at the bottom in the academic hierarchy. And it is already happening. Look at peer reviews. Currently, we are in the ecosystem where generative AI, because of publish and perish paper, is being used to generate a lot of papers, and it's a lot of garbage. And the reviewing burden is usually on the ECRs. Quality control is complex. And under this, we have to think about how we are going to include Diamond Open Access where it does not become a burden, an individual overload, and ultimately moves towards the area where it is a collective dilution of trust in scholarly communication. Alignment with current research ecosystem and realities and research assessment reforms is required. And across the past 2 sessions, including the ECR workshop on Monday, we came to a common theme that research is not just about PDF. It is, publication is usually the final artifact. And along the way, we generate data sets, models, protocols, community engagement contributions, and much more. And this should be part of the entire ecosystem. And this conceptual shift must be matched by structural reforms. If we want ECRs to embrace Diamond Open Access, we ensure that doing this strengthens their careers and supports their research priorities and invisible contributions. And currently, ECRs are being trained according to traditional research metrics to write more. This was the first cultural shock that I had experienced when I was asked to think of what paper I want to write even before I was thinking of a problem and a solution. So we want to train our ECRs accordingly on what we call societally beneficial research. We must think about next generation in stewardship, governance, and think about science and infrastructures as public good. Without this alignment, we expand what counts as research in principle, yet continue to reward only traditional articles, and we risk continuing breeding more cobras. With that, I will end. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, I think an applause for that, definitely. Pragya, thank you for sharing your frustration. No, I mean, that is where all of this starts, and then we get to work how we can resolve that. So thank you so much for sharing that. We're moving on with the next speaker, Carolina Diaz, Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I do hope the jet lag wasn't too bad, but the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Good morning. First of all, Carolina Diaz. I'm from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this meeting to join this panel. I'd like to thank Brett for organizing it. Thank my colleagues to share this stage with me. Though, as a presentation, so I am a research project manager and Diamond Open Access Journal editor in the Institute of Economics at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. I'm also currently pursuing a PhD in information science, also at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. And I'm currently doing a research internship in France with Erasmus scholarship. And I'm also an ambassador to DOAJ in Brazil. So we've been asked to share like a few or highlights for this discussion, and I'm trying to give a new perspective to complement the ideas my colleagues have already brought to this pulpit. So I think from the discussions taking place here since Monday, it's now clear that we should widen the focus on how Diamond Open Access platforms and practices can help early career researchers by acknowledging that those platforms and practices are more than just publishing outlets for journals and research articles. So we are talking about other research outputs, other publishing outlets. We are talking about research data, code, and repositories, for example. And also something that for me was outstanding to listen to these past few days is that we should consider the other roles of Diamond Open Access practice and infrastructures in education and in extension. In Brazil, for example, universities are called upon acting as to do extension, like to transfer knowledge into communities very often. This is a demand. It's a political demand, and it's a social demand. So for me, it was very nice to see various examples of how Diamond Open Access infrastructures and services can be put into service of communities and local businesses, and to support like knowledge management systems and dissemination to local communities and businesses. So this is something we should consider when discussing how Diamond Open Access can help or hinder early career researchers to build their careers. So, as for the barriers and structural challenges we face when developing our own careers, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Matthews effect. Also, Matthews effect affects everybody, all kinds of researchers, but I think it's harder on early career researchers because we have less accumulated advantages compared to more senior colleagues. So this is something we should think about, and it should be reflected into how assessment systems deal with early career researchers. Of course, the lack of recognition, incentives, and rewards from formal institutional and national research systems, it's a major issue that has been discussed very thoroughly here during practically all sessions. So this is something we should be very concerned about. Of course, it's paramount to change national and institutional assessment systems to properly recognize, incentivize, and reward the diverse research activities, and not only publication counts in famous and prestigious outlets. So, but I wanted to highlight another issue that is it's a real barrier in my country. It's how hiring processes to research and academic positions treat young scholars, because those processes are always so focused on publication counts and accumulated advantages that they are very unfair to young scholars. Especially by many young scholars are not currently affiliated to any institution when they apply for positions. So how can they accumulate advantages if they don't have access to publication systems and grants? So it's paradoxical. So how do we deal with that? How do we break this vicious cycle, I think? This is something we should think about, and policymakers should think about. So this is what I wanted to add to the discussion at this point. Thank you very much.
I'm getting a lot of like the same sort of messages here. Like this is clearly, there's a couple of shared themes already emerging from the introductions. And I'm looking forward to what the last two speakers are going to be adding to this further. Nestor Daniel Martinez Dominguez, Autonomous University of the State of Mexico. The floor is all yours.
Well, I'm getting nervous. Hello, my name is Nestor Martinez. I'm from Mexico. It's a pleasure to be here. I've learned a great deal from every presentation and every discussion about open access diamond. So I'm a sociologist. I'm professor at the Autonomous University of the State of Mexico, Universidad Autónoma del Estado de Mexico. I'm a journal editor, and I have been working on editorial process of medical journals in Mexico. If you allow me, I'm gonna start to talking in Spanish very slowly. Bueno, el día de hoy traigo una serie de reflexiones que vienen o que he pensado en torno a lo que he tratado de investigar sobre los procesos editoriales en las revistas médicas en México y cómo esto se correlaciona tanto con mi propio trabajo como con la carrera que uno quiere hacer en investigación, sobre todo en acceso abierto. En ese sentido, considero que el modelo de acceso abierto Diamante es un sistema sociotécnico, es una red que se compone de actores humanos y no humanos y que de alguna manera se han enrolado y han puesto intereses en común desde hace casi 30 años para poder hacer visible lo invisible. Y en ese aspecto se han enrolado diferentes actores, unos más que otros. Sabemos que la cuestión técnica funciona, existe, pero en ese aspecto el gran problema o el principal challenge del modelo de acceso abierto Diamante no creo que sea técnico, sino más bien es estructural y es simbólico. Y en ese aspecto considero que los sistemas de reconocimiento académico siguen organizados en torno a regímenes de prestigio dominados por grandes editoriales comerciales, métricas opacas y jerarquías geopolíticas del conocimiento. También es cierto que las grandes editoriales han absorbido y se han enrolado al modelo de acceso abierto de una manera que no nos conviene en las regiones del sur global, porque de alguna manera estamos hablando de nuevas formas de reproducción de la desigualdad epistémica. En ese aspecto, para personas investigadoras que están iniciando, sobre todo lo que yo he visto en las disciplinas médicas o biomédicas, publicar en revistas de modelo de acceso abierto Diamante, si bien es muy importante y tiene una lógica con una aplicación práctica dentro de la clínica, también hay riesgos claros, sobre todo en las trayectorias académicas. Primero es el menor reconocimiento en evaluaciones, concursos o promociones, especialmente considerando que al menos en México está el Sistema Nacional de Investigadores e Investigadoras, que está vinculado con la Secretaría de Ciencia, pero también la propia Secretaría de Salud tiene su sistema de incentivos. Y en ese aspecto, las revistas locales, las revistas médicas, que en su gran mayoría estamos hablando de más o menos 120 revistas vivas, médicas, pero que son invisibles y que de alguna manera están en acceso abierto, son invisibles en este tipo de evaluaciones. En ese aspecto también hay que mencionarlo o quisiera presentarlo ante ustedes es que regularmente estos proyectos editoriales son sostenidos por el trabajo incluso y el esfuerzo personal de equipos y de investigadores muy jóvenes, y eso me lleva a pensar que el modelo de acceso abierto Diamante opera en tensión con un sistema que externaliza los costos del acceso abierto en ocasiones hacia el trabajo precarizado de las propias personas investigadoras. En ese aspecto, considero que participar activamente en el modelo de acceso abierto Diamante también requiere una serie de habilidades que no nos enseñan en nuestros programas de estudio, ¿no? Que tienen que ver con este hábitus académico tradicional y que rara vez se enseña formalmente, o al menos así no me ha pasado, y con quienes yo he podido hablar de esa comunidad, pues han aprendido tácitamente. Eso me lleva a pensar en algunas necesidades como la alfabetización en infraestructuras digitales abiertas, los conocimientos sobre gobernanza editorial e institucional, la evaluación por pares responsable, las licencias abiertas, la ética de publicación y la ciencia abierta, así como la gestión colectiva y toma de decisiones comunitarias. Finalmente, ¿por qué tendríamos que seguir publicando en modelo de acceso abierto Diamante, del cual yo estoy más que convencido? Es porque la cuestión central no es si es viable, ¿no? La cuestión es qué tipo de ciencia y qué tipo de personas investigadoras se están formando y qué tipo de investigaciones se están reconociendo dentro de las prácticas locales de circulación de conocimiento. En ese aspecto, para que considero que el modelo abierto Diamante sea una opción real para las personas investigadoras que están iniciando su carrera, debería haber como alguna suerte de transformaciones profundas en los sistemas de evaluación. Reconocer, como por ejemplo, reconocer explícitamente la publicación en revistas Diamond como producción legítima de conocimiento, porque en ocasiones son este tipo de revistas, al menos en las áreas médicas, las que están dando a conocer resultados que podrían incorporarse a la práctica clínica. Por otro lado, también valorar el trabajo editorial de revisión y de infraestructura como contribuciones científicas, incorporar criterios de impacto social, apertura y colaboración. Y bueno, los financiadores, las instituciones y las infraestructuras públicas deben actuar como agentes estructurantes en el campo, no solo para financiar el acceso abierto marginal, sino dejar el modelo acceso abierto Diamante como un eje central dentro de las políticas científicas. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Nice to hear. I love that question. What kind of science do we want? What type of researchers are we training? That is an excellent question to ask here. So thank you for that introduction. We are on the last of the presenters, Felix Mburu Njoroge, University of Nairobi, Kenya. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Brett. Thank you to all the organizers, to Joanna, and also to Dr. Shrita for the invite. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Felix Mburu Njoroge. I am a final year medical student at the University of Nairobi, so just about to become a doctor. And I am also part of the ecosystem of Diamond Open Access in East Africa. I am an editor and also serve as the project lead at the East African Journal of Neurological Sciences, which is a Diamond Open Access journal. And additionally, I am also the founder of a community of medical students from around the East African region that lives the spirit of Diamond Open Access called XYZED-Med, where we create materials that are very local for learning, for medical education, to ensure that whatever we do and learn from is contextualized. So the perspective that I'll be bringing is mostly a lived reality as an early career researcher in East Africa, for the work that we do, for the experience that we've had with our journal. It's not been an easy experience as an early career researcher in this, and also particularly working with a young journal that's also Diamond Open Access in terms of sustainability, in terms of limited capacity, in terms of invisible work, as has been mentioned. But we've really tried to turn our challenges around to more of opportunities, to think of what more we can do, because as a journal we realize that we can't just sit back and wait for people to send papers to us and we just review them and publish them. We realized that there was a gap in our communities, in our scientific community. The quality of papers wasn't that good. The quality of peer review also wasn't that good. So as a journal, we've really been trying to reach out to the communities, conduct workshops to capacity build those who contribute to our journal. We've also tried to rethink how we communicate our science, what the work that has been published with us. We've now tapped into more of different audiovisual materials and mass media, such as podcasts for the work that has been published in our journals. So for us, I think for personally, the perspective I'd be bringing here as an early career researcher is more of what we are trying to do to solve the problems that we experience, because we realized probably no one is going to come and save us. We have to come up with our own solutions ourselves and for ourselves. So that is my introduction for now. I hope to share more as the panel goes on. Thank you very much.
Oh, those were our introductions. That is sort of the main frustrations that we have. But you know, the experiences that you shared, I mean, thank you. This is incredibly valuable. And I'm heartened by hearing that the experiences and the perspectives that you're sharing here, they do, that you yourself have connected. So look, we've discussed some of this already. So that to me shows that we're on the right track, that we are analyzing, that we have a good analysis of maybe not every issue, but that the key issues are being identified. So I think that's already a good place to start. Now, I want to ask all of you, and I had mentioned this in advance, after the introductions, are there things you've picked up from each other where you're like, you know what, I share that experience, I want to expand on that a little bit. There are more microphones here, I hope. Is there anyone who wants to go first? Ah, perfect.
Yeah, maybe I could. From what Pragya, you shared about your experience trying to publish your first paper, I believe it's a universal, harrowing experience when you send your paper out and then the reviews come back and it's, for some reason, it's always reviewer 2, as they say, who's always very harsh. But personally, for me, I actually read and tried to understand the truth in the feedback he gave, because the feedback I got from my reviewer was that this work is good, but it does not belong here. I tried to publish work that was very contextualized to Kenya in a very foreign journal, which was more prestigious because of this notion that had been, fed to us throughout our training that the best way to disseminate your work is to send your work to these big journals. Don't send them to our local journals, they're not good quality. And that was also a turning point for me mentally, in terms of thinking of our journals a bit differently, because it makes no sense to be sending work that has been done in Nairobi on Kenyans to a place where nobody's going to read, and it doesn't really get the readership it deserves and the local impact that it ought to have. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's sort of that you feel that you're being pressured in a certain direction, even though you don't agree with it. And that is something to take very serious. Somebody, Nestor, did you?
Yeah, in Brazil, a common strategy for young scholars to get published and is to publish with their supervisors. It's a way of borrowing their prestige and their grant money to pay for APCs. So it's very common, and sometimes it's so unfair because you could publish for yourself. You have the autonomy to do that, you have experience, you have done the research, it's your research, and you are not accepted. And as a journal editor, we usually are more thorough with our review reports when we realize they are young scholars. We try to do that. Maybe it's bias from our part, but we think, as Nestor pointed out, that journals have, Diamond open access journals that do have this pedagogical role in training the new generation of editors, authors, peer reviewers. So we tend to be more thorough with our, it's not more generous, it's more thorough to give proper feedback, to really contribute to the enhancement of the research we have been submitted to. So this is my experience.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you about that, about the quality control of what we are going to put in our journals, because currently with the publish and perish pressure and with the AI, and we are using AI in everything, the amount of data and amount of garbage publications we are producing. We need proper peer reviewing processes. We need open peer reviews. We need to put stronger quality checks. And more than that, we need research assessment systems that actually look for something impactful. They actually do not award quantity over quality. This is something that we need to go back to, and as Nestor had also said that, and this is something that emerged as a theme in the workshop that we did with ECRs on Monday, that it's just not the publications, we also need to think about different research outputs. So I think we need to work on how do we analyze and do the quality indexing for those outputs as well. So I think that is something that all of us need to think about as a community. And as ECRs, since we are usually the one who will be, given the task of doing the reviews or something, because it's usually gonna, hover on our shoulders. So this is something that we also need to be trained on. Like, how do we do this kind of assessments? Yeah.
I just briefly want to interrupt here. If we can get the Zoom back on the screen. Alexandra, I know you had to leave at some point. I don't know if you're still online. Unfortunately not. Sorry, no, she did announce this. She had to leave at some point. I just wanted to make sure we could still get a last comment in there. No, but then the slide can go back up. There's also some questions from the audience, but I want to keep it just for a minute. So I want to keep it going here between the presenters. Please.
So I don't know, because this time is going to be end very soon before lunch. So I have few points to make here. Yeah, I agree with Nestor that Nestor said that we have to value the contribution of anyone is doing any contribution in editorial, peer reviewing. They should be credited actually in their career advancement assessment. So that's absolutely necessary. It's not only that voluntary side work kind of things. They should be credited. Then only you can encourage people to contribute actively to Diamond Open Access. Okay, so if I want to highlight after that a few points that I just noted it down that are absolutely necessary to move forward with this movement of Diamond Open Access. That is that we need a reform in research assessment. That is an urgent thing. Why? What kind of reform? The reform is move away from journal-based metrics, rather quality, transparency, and societal relevance of research. Obviously, I understand, because I participated earlier in some discussion, but it's very difficult to make that kind of metrics, which will value societal relevance of research. It's very difficult. It's not an easy thing, but we have to work on that. And humans are very intelligent. If they work on that, they will figure it out. Okay? And then second is engagement with Diamond Open Access through publishing, reviewing, or governance, or structural support should be explicitly valued in hiring and promotion. Policy decision. For example, here I have seen in this earlier panel that there is Madam Dr. Geeta Bhani, Madam is there, Director of NISPER, and Anuradha Agarwal madam from ICER, they have a say in policy making in two big bodies of Indian research organization. If they can make that, okay, in assessment, if any early career researcher do contribute to any kind of these points that I have just said, they should get some marks on their assessment metrics. Third, funders play a transformative role supporting Diamond open access infrastructure directly rather than reimbursing the APCs. That is, I think funders have even more role here. Then second is then incentivizing researchers who publishes in Diamond open access, that I already said that. And it should be top to bottom. So policy decision when comes, then obviously early career researchers like us would be encouraged to publish in Diamond open access. For example, we are from academician, we love to publish, but do you think any body from industry love to publish? If they are not getting evaluated by how many paper they published. They are getting evaluated by how many technology, how many product they have developed. So it's all what is needed from the top. So it's a top to bottom. I think policymakers should be convinced. And then, I also thought about that, integrating the awareness. Many people from Global South do not know what is Diamond Open Access. That's the true things. When I asked many of my friends that, can you join this Diamond Open Access meeting happening in Bengaluru, they said it's not our field. I said, what problem you feel when you go to publish anything? They said APC, so this is for you. But they do not have that clear understanding, okay? And okay, awareness is the key, I think. And if I ask you, how many of you use social media? How many of you? Can you raise your hand? I think most of you, yeah, including the director, madam. So that's a good thing. If you take a photograph in front of the logo and post in your Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, that's a awareness. Can you do that? That is also an awareness. So people will then read DOAJ, okay? Mm-hmm. So and visibility tactics, we have to figure it out. Whoever in the publishing field of Diamond Open Access Journal, they have to figure it out how it is appearing in the top search result top in Google, as I mentioned. And this is the last point, sorry. Huge number of society journals are already existing. I'm talking about in the Indian perspective. And they have a very good infrastructure already in place, but they are not open. Can CSIR, ICAR, ICAMR, those are the bodies, and then InflibNet also, the madam was here. Can they support those society journals to make Diamond Open Access by financially supporting them? That's the last point that we wanted to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Some very clear points there. And my colleague Joanna is busy taking notes here, and this is fantastic for her. So it's a clear points and calls. So thank you for that. Nestor, I just wanted to ask if you also just wanted to add something.
Well, I have so many points I want to talk, but I think that one point that some things sometimes we're missing is the quality of open access journals, because I'm talking a lot with many editors, medical journals, and they told me, well, we have the infrastructure, we have the editorial process, we have everything, but we don't have articles, a good quality articles. So I think that sometimes we're missing the pedagogical sense of the open access, because it's something like training. When we write an article or a text, it's training for communicate something.
Yeah, it's very, very good point. So thank you for all these interventions. Time flies when you're having fun, but we do still have time for questions from the audience. Somebody here in front has been raising her hand. Is there a microphone? Because I can always give mine, of course. There's a microphone. And there's also somebody in the back there raising their hand. If you could come to the microphone as well, that'd be great. Yeah.
I will thank you for the time. I will try to say everything quickly for you to go to eat. First of all, it was an amazing moment of this, this session. First of all, I want to tell you that we are the senior researchers that are suffering because of you. Yes, we are directors of the young researcher like you, and we want to change the future research profile, because we need researchers with oriented to social relevance, to social transfers, as the Brazilian researcher says, to believe on extension, on the other things about publish. Another thing that you said that is very, very important, and I want to reinforce, is that evaluation, it is not a punishment. It is very good when you receive, after you send your papers, a very good evaluation, a very sensitive evaluation to explain what is good, what is bad, to improve your careers. In the issue of the medical research, I was invited many times from medical congress, and they are use a very, very interesting word that is translational research. It is very, very interesting. What it means, translational research, is often called branch to bedside. What it means, accelerated the convention on basic science, discovery, laboratory finding, and preclinical studies into practical application, such as new drugs, device, diagnostic tools, and treatment protocols to directly improve human health and patient outcomes. This is something that there was no time to talk about that, but they are changing. And for sure, as I said yesterday, we need to talk a lot with evaluators to change the things for you don't suffer as much.
Yeah. Thank you for reinforcing those points. Yes. There was a gentleman in the back who had his hand raised. Please, if you could come to the microphone as well. And that microphone really is set up very high, the one in the front here. Please. Yes.
Thank you for sharing your insights. It's good to see young researchers talking for ourselves. Myself, Ablas Mohammed Shamnad, a young researcher with a background in economics, public policy and international development. This question is framed from my experience backpacking around the country, India, and in Europe. I would like to know your perspective on science directly reaching the society. Let's be real, there is a clear-cut disconnect between science and society, even if we are trying a lot to connect it and bridge it. I would like to know about each of the panelists' perspective on using social media, YouTube, Instagram Reels, WhatsApp forward messages, and other social media platforms for disseminating science as scientists and experts. A. B. What are the threats and challenges if we, as experts in our own fields, use these platforms to directly reach to the society in terms of the academic integrity and diluted methodology? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I want to throw that to the panel here because indeed, this is about researchers being able and also to what extent are you being recognized. If you want to reach out to society, public research, it's publicly funded. It has to be for society. do you feel that you have that opportunity to connect? And then what are some of the challenges? Felix, please.
Thank you so much, Abdaz, for that question. It's a topic that I'm also really passionate about in our region as well. Scientific communication has been a huge problem in that I think it was the UN last year, they released a report showing just how little their reports are read. Barely anyone consumes work that takes millions of dollars to produce, and it's the reality of science. Yesterday, someone showed a slide of how scientific communication has not evolved over the last 100 years. It's still very text-heavy, not simplified at all, just meant for a very small group of people. And the reality is that we have to go to social media and communicate, because if we really want our work to have an impact, it has to reach these people that we intend the work to have an impact on. Because nowadays a simple TikTok can generate 1 million views in a day. I doubt there are any papers out there published in journals that are able to do the same. So maybe I'd now just add this perspective of what we've been trying to do at the East African Journal of Neurological Sciences, and also through this project that also a community project for XYZ. We really try to come up with fun ways to communicate science. We've also now recently launched a podcast for our journal where we interview authors. We let them just speak about the work that they do. And it's really helping to humanize research, to make it easier for the target audience to understand. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, great. A lot of energy there, like podcasts, and like there's clearly the energy, the will to do it. Like, Pragya.
Yeah, thank you for that question again. And I mean, you're doing some amazing work over there. From the Indian perspective, I think one of the challenges that a lot of people who are working in science communication face is the heterogeneity of languages. You cannot use a single language to communicate all your science, because when we are trying to reach some very local people, like tribals, we need to be able to communicate in the language, in their own language, right? And we need to actually take in also account what are the channels that they will use. We cannot always use social media. We cannot always be putting a reel or imagining that it would reach someone in a very, very remote area. So the challenges for science communication are different in terms of India. We need to think of ways on how we can reach these, very remote populations, because, and to be fair, it is an incredibly important step that we need to think about, that we need to talk about more. And it's not just I don't think it's just on these early career researchers that this burden should fall, because I'm calling it a burden because science communication activities are currently not accounted when we are talking about research assessment. We are not thinking about science communication as a proper output or doing something meaningful to the society, which I think it is an extremely meaningful task. But even for the science communicators, I know there are people who actually go to these government colleges and schools, and they make those very tiny laboratories where students can learn about space, and they learn about, there's this thing called foldoscope, so they learn about more organisms. They can create these tiny microscopes. So we need to think of such more initiatives where we can take science and technology to them and help them understand in their own language. And yeah, this is.
Yeah, great. We have one last question for the session.
Thank you, Bert. Joe Haberman, Access to Perspective, is a independent training consultancy agency. It's basically me. Also the founder of Africa Archive. I just wanted to add to that, and thanks very much. As a trainer, I get a lot of these questions, I also train a lot on these topics. Science communication should not just be publishing in whichever journal. And I want to, like with Africa Archive, dedicated decisions to open the repository also to different formats. And DSpace and other infrastructures provide for that. So the Instagram Reels or YouTube videos, the repository can host them, because that's when you own the actual data. Because if you only put it on Instagram, you only put it on YouTube, it's owned by that company, which might not exist tomorrow, because some orange persons currently in some White House somewhere in this world. So it's an opportunity. I just wanted to bring to our attention awareness that as repository managers, librarians, and also towards Diamond Open Access, this is an opportunity to own the data, to make it accessible to society, to allow young researchers use the formats and the tools that they are like naturally familiar with. And as older generation, like I used to be one of these with Facebook, new on the block, a new kid on the block. Now it's a very old kid on the block, but still there. And I kind of have a TikTok account, but I never use it because I feel like I've reached that age where I just can't keep up with what's coming. But, so yeah, I just wanted to emphasize the importance and the opportunity that repositories have to bridge between Diamond Open Access journals, science communication, young, more experienced generations in the academic sphere. So thanks for that question.
I am going to give a story of hope here, Jay. There is a tribal university in India. It's called SDMU, Sri Murmu Anna University. I think that is the name, right? The students and the faculties have taken upon themselves. Most of them are from a very tribal region, and they have a lot of these tribal stories and cultures and contexts that are not being recorded anywhere else academically. So they have taken it upon themselves to create a repository within their own university where they can record their own tribal histories. So yes, we do have such tiny stories of hopes everywhere. So yeah,
Great.
that's what.
See, we're ending on a note of hope here. Look, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'm very sorry because I'm already getting the signal that we have to close it up here. But I'm getting a different signal, so we have another question here.
Thank you. So it's not a question though, it's a direct comment to how data in certain platforms that could be owned by other sources. We at the TIB have the audio-video portal, which can be used to kind of store those data, like the social media videos. You can put it there, and you can also create a persistent identifier, so it's searchable. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
That is perfect. Also, a reminder that there are really good initiatives out there now. I am not even going to attempt to summarize everything that's been said because it's been so much. And again, my colleagues have been taking notes, but thank you so much. The only thing that I will say is that what struck me throughout the conversation that we had is that you are fully aware of the unfairness of all these elements in the current system. You are trying to build a career in the current system, but you are clearly very innately just aware, like, look, this isn't fair. This is not how it should be. And I think that is something for us to build on, and that is why we're here to try and resolve these issues step by step. And I thank you for sharing those experiences, sharing again those frustrations as well, because that's where all of this starts. So I would like to invite everyone to give a huge applause to the speakers. And then I am looking to the organizers. What happens next?
Thank you. As we close, I want to offer our sincere thanks to all the young and early career speakers who shared their work and perspectives today. Your voices, ideas, and commitment to advancing Diamond Open Access are not only inspiring, they are shaping the future of scholarly communication. Thank you for your courage, your clarity, and the generosity with which you shared your experiences. This session would not have been possible, without you all, and we are deeply grateful for your contributions. May I now call upon Dr. Sridhar, on behalf of organizing committee, would like to felicitate all the speakers here. I also invite the rapporteurs, Jonah and Smita, to join for a photo. Yeah. So we'll be breaking for the lunch, and it's strictly half an hour lunch for you all. So please keep up the timing so that we have a plenary and final winding up session as well ahead. So I request all of you have your lunch peacefully, and I request all of you to gather back in the hall.